Thank you for playing me on with my theme song. Okay, I'm gonna, everybody take your seats and pay attention. Would that be okay? Table 24, sit down, take your seats. Okay? Welcome everybody. Welcome to the HRC LA dinner. Welcome. Welcome to yourself. I'm Senator Al Franken, Democrat from Minnesota. I want to thank the HRC for inviting me to speak this evening and for all the incredible work that they've done and continue to do to advance equality for the LGBT community, of which I am a member. I think of myself as half a bee. Half a bee, you see. A special thank you to Chad Griffin for his long and tireless advocacy of our issues. HRC is fortunate to have him at the helm. Also, thank you to tonight's co-chairs, Gwen and Rich. I would also like to congratulate tonight's honorees, Michael Lombardo, and Shonda Rhimes, who are both in show business. I was in show business once myself, but I am now a United States Senator, and I will not let you forget it. Actually, this is not the first time that I have spoken at the HRC LA dinner. The last time was in 2005, which some of you may remember as the HRC dinner where Charo went long. Charo did about 40 minutes at the top of the evening, and she was terrific. But those who spoke toward the end of the program, including me and former Vice President Al Gore, still refer to the event as the HRC dinner where Charo went long. Well, I am in the Charo spot tonight, so I'm going to try to keep this relatively short, even though we have a lot to celebrate. You see, we've made a lot of progress since 2005. In 2005, if a loving, committed same-sex couple wanted to get married, there was only one state in the union that would recognize that union, Massachusetts. Just the year before, during the 2004 election, 11 states had passed constitutional amendments that denied same-sex couples the right to marry. Even in California, where the legislature passed the first marriage equality bill in the country in 2005, that bill was vetoed by the governor, Arnold Schwarzenegger. It was something, I guess, about the sanctity of marriage. That's what it was. Two years later, the legislature passed it again, and again, Governor Schwarzenegger vetoed the bill. More sanctity. So in 2007, same-gender marriage was still legal in only one state. In February of that year, I announced that I was running for the United States Senate against an incumbent Republican. In my first televised debate, I became the first major party statewide candidate in Minnesota history to publicly support same-gender marriage. The pundits said I was done for, that Minnesotans would not accept a candidate for senator with that point of view, but they were wrong. I won. Not by a lot, but I won. Meanwhile, the people working to advance marriage equality were unrelenting. Marriage equality became legal in Connecticut, and here in California, your state Supreme Court ruled that excluding same-sex couples from marriage was unconstitutional. Couples began marrying that June, and I'm sure some of the people in this room were among them. And I imagine that a few of you are even divorced by now. Stuff happens. For example, the following November, Proposition 8 passed. But back to me. I was sworn in as senator in July of 2009. I joined a number of Democratic senators who thought that our armed services don't ask, don't tell policy was wrong and was undermining our national security. When Democratic senators held a press conference to call for its repeal, just two states, were represented on the platform by both of their U.S. senators, California and Minnesota. Amy Klobuchar and I proudly stood with Dianne Feinstein and Barbara Boxer on that day. And in 2010, with the help of a few Republicans, we repealed Don't Ask, Don't Tell. And now our servicemen and women can serve our nation openly and proudly as LGBT Americans. And by then, three more states, Iowa, Vermont, and New Hampshire, and the District of Columbia had joined Massachusetts and Connecticut in legalizing marriage equality, all because I had been elected to the United States Senate. Soon, other states realized that I had been elected senator. New York in 2011, and Washington, Maryland, and Maine in 2012 adopted marriage equality. Oh, and the work of HRC had something to do with it, too. Meanwhile, I turned my attention to the Defense of Marriage Act. You may not know this, but witnesses at Senate hearings are supposed to submit their written testimony the day before the hearing to give members the opportunity to read it the evening before. Well, the night before a Judiciary Subcommittee meeting on the Defense of Marriage Act, I was reading through the testimony of a witness from a group named Focus on the Family. He cited a study from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services saying that children raised by heterosexual couples do much better on a series of metrics than children raised by same-sex couples. That sounded kind of suspect to me. So at about 10:30 that night, I called a staffer and asked him to find the study. Well, wouldn't you know it, the HHS study didn't say that at all. It said that overall, children with two married parents do better than children with a single parent. No mention at all in the study about sexual orientation or the sexual orientation of the parents. So when it came my time to ask questions of the panel, which included my friend, Joe Solemnese, then president of HRC, With the HHS study in my hand, I turn my attention to the witness from Focus on the Family. Let's just say it wasn't pretty. Unless you think shredding the testimony of a homophobe and embarrassing him in front of a room full of LGBT activists, not to mention the hundreds of people watching on C-SPAN, unless you call that pretty, and I do. And so did Joe, who called it the best single moment of his entire time as head of HRC. He said this in Minneapolis at an HRC dinner, because I was there, that's why he said it. In fact, soon after my questioning, Joe turned the helm over to Chad. Well, it appears that the United States Supreme Court was watching the hearing, or saw it on YouTube, because in 2013, the United States Supreme Court struck down the heart of the Defense of Marriage Act and upheld the Ninth Circuit's decision to overturn Prop 8. They restored marriage equality in California, all paving the way for the tremendous successes we've seen in marriage equality litigation. Today, 37 states recognize marriage equality. Including my state of California, meaning that nearly 72% of Americans live in a state that acknowledges the commitment of same-sex couples. And a Supreme Court decision making marriage equality real in all 50 states could come as early as this spring. So there is much to celebrate, but a lot more work to be done. One of the issues that I have focused on is bullying, harassment, and discrimination that is affecting LGBT children in our schools. And you know, there's a lot of people out there who say, well, what can you do to stop bullying? Kids will be kids, boys will be boys. And I don't think that's right. Because what we're seeing in our schools today is not just teasing, it's not playground behavior. What we're seeing is more than just bullying, we're seeing discrimination. Let me explain what I mean. If a black child is called a racial slur by a white child, would we say kids will be kids? If a Jewish student got beat up because he wore a yarmulke to school, would we wave it off and say boys will be boys? If a shop teacher told a female student that she didn't belong in class, would we be fine if the school just looked the other way? No, we wouldn't. In fact, there are federal civil rights laws that are specifically designed to stop this kind of conduct. But if a gay child is relentlessly harassed by his classmates, if a principal tells a girl that she can't go to her senior prom because she wants to bring another girl as her date, or if a school just stands by as teachers, students, and other administrations refer to a transgender child as not he or she, but it. Well, there is no law that has been written to protect these children, that has passed to protect these children. Our laws fail these children, and that is just wrong. I have a bill. The Student Non-Discrimination Act, or SENDA, that would fix this. It takes the same protections that children have against discrimination based on their race, their gender, national origin, religious or their religion or their disability, and extends those rights to LGBT children. That's it. It's a pretty simple bill. I got 43 senators to co-sponsor my bill in the last Congress. It didn't pass, but I just reintroduced the bill, and we are going to pass it. It may take time, but vote by vote, we are going to get there so that finally when parents call a school to say my child isn't safe, that school would have to listen. I'm doing everything I can to pass that bill, and I want to thank HRC and all of you for your support and for the work that you've been doing to keep us all moving toward full equality, not just on marriage and relationship recognition, but in our schools and in the workplace, which means we've got to pass ENDA. We did it in the Senate, but it didn't go to the House. We will get that done as well. I believe that all Americans, no matter their race, no matter their sex, no matter their sexual orientation or gender identity, should all stand equal under the law. And we're headed there. And thank you. And enjoy the dinner.